Welcome back to Pittsburgh Home Garden. It's the middle of July.
Oh, Pittsburgh soil, where melodies find roots, in my garden of jazz, wearing dance.
So, as you can see, I'm obviously here at my wonderful little corn patch. Oh, remember I told you I would have one, and success has come. The transplants have actually been doing a lot better than the self-sown corn. Remember that little test I said? I now am actually kind of against direct sowing your seeds, at least here in zone 6, because the humidity just doesn't stay overnight the way that you need with fresh seedlings. The only thing I really would do different with my corn is add a bit more water. This dry spell that has lasted 3 weeks here in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, has not brought any rain, any serious rain. We'll get like a real hard shower that may rain for like 10 minutes, and that just doesn't soak into the soil that you need. So like a lot of my corn is very skinny, as you can see. And from the shots of like the kernels on there, I have a lot of very small cobs forming right now. Only a few big ones. These babies are very thin. They need to get a bit more meatier. We're going to start the yard portion of the tour here on the left side at the yay old cucumber bed. This thing is a mess. I have certainly not been keeping up with the cucumbers the way I totally should have. There's so much new growth that's happening every day with your cucumbers that it is kind of hard to stay with them, even when you are growing them vertically. So like even looking at this portion of the bed, I can tell that most of the congestion is basically just new growth that hasn't been strung up on its own particular string. And the bigger ones are using their talons to actually grab the other strings. And so they're like hopping each other's strings. It's a mess, but it's beautiful. I'm very happy about my cucumbers. I have not been out here harvesting the way I should have. This cucumber is a great size. I don't know, this is probably like 7 inches, and it might be a little too big and overgrown. When growing cucumbers, you really want to stay on top of your harvest because if you just let them hang, like some have been doing for too long, the entire plant basically says that it's done its job and it starts to die off. And I want these cucumbers to, of course, grow for at least another 2.5 months. So I need to stay on top of it. But these cucumbers are very sexy. I'm sure these are the market, I believe they're called Market 76 or Market 67, some combination of those numbers. Beautiful, beautiful, good tasting cucumbers. You hear that crunch? So as you can see on this side of the bed, there are some plants that aren't doing so well. These like first 4, they just died out. And I don't really know if it was a me thing or it was a bug thing. I'm really not sure what's going on. And the sad thing, it might just be the variety. I believe these were the special Armenian cucumbers. And maybe they're just not disease resistant or something. Right next to it, we have this huge success of a pepper plant. Not really sure what pepper this is. I believe it is the banana pepper of sweet banana pepper. Here we are at the keyframe bed, which is actually more of the pepper bed that has been getting invaded by these squash leaves. This bed has been so productive ever since the jump. This is the only bed I feel like I didn't have to worry about at all. Here I have 2 beautiful calendulas that are doing well. I have an okra plant that is starting to get thick. And of course, the wonderful peppers. So right here is actually my giant macaroni. And I have 1 semi-giant macaroni already. Look how big that beautiful pepper is. So cool. So this is the flat edge of the bed where I have 2 pepper plants. I'm sure you can only see 1 because of all of these leaves. This pepper plant here that seems to be doing well, but totally can get more sun that is coming, from the western part of the sky. And I bet this plant grew so tall because it's essentially competing with this squash plant and the squash plant leaves. So from this angle, you can totally see what I was talking about. I have a chili pepper right here that essentially has been getting blocked out from the sun. And I have a purple bell pepper plant right here that has been severely getting blocked out from the sun. You certainly want to do some pruning. I actually decided to grow my squash plants vertically this year just because they were in a bed with things that I knew could potentially cover them. I just wasn't ready for how much they would cover them. So I'm going to go ahead and try to string this up without breaking it and do a bit of pruning so I can show you my beautiful purple bell peppers. Vertical squash plants certainly aren't the easiest thing to grow vertically, but it can be done. It does open up a lot of the bed. As you can see already, this thing's just going straight forward. Will then turn the leaves to go straight up. All right, here we are inside of the greenhouse. This thing is still up, it's still kicking, and it's badass. I have essentially taken one of almost any interesting plant that I am growing in the yard and put it inside here to see how it would do. And to my surprise, there's some death going on in here. I'm not really sure what's the matter. There's not much death. This is certainly the one plant that didn't make it at all. Over here, I have some carrots that are doing okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull one just to see what we are working with here. And we got some very, very, very small carrots. This is totally fine. I'm going to let this bag continue to do what it does. I have some other carrots growing out in the yard. But right next to here, I have some edamame that needs to be strung up. I'm going to go ahead and take this string, just add it to the edamame, let this baby grow nice and tall. And then next to that, I have another cucumber. I believe this is the Armenian cucumber that is doing pretty well. So hopefully I will see at least one or two of those plants actually, in full success in fruit, because the ones in the bed, not doing so well. But even in here, we have a bit of disease that are hitting some leaves. So I have to come in here and really do a soil checkup just to make sure everything is going as it should. Here is a watermelon plant right here that is actually doing very well. Right next to there, I have a very, very large edamame plant that is crushing it. This thing is actually so tall that it's getting into the bird netting that I have covering of this greenhouse. Next to that, I seem to have a squash in here, which probably isn't the smartest thing in the world. And then right next to the squash, I don't even know if you can see this, I have a tomato plant over here that is also strung up on strings. It actually has a bunch of suckers that I need to come out and get off the plant like this and go ahead and put these babies somewhere else. I believe this is a cherry tomato. Before I move on, I have to get this beautiful edamame plant out of my bird netting. So it's been about 2 days forward in time, mainly because I came out yesterday and my corn patch looked like this. Just a reminder that animals aren't your friends. They are wild beasts who will eat all your crop. Dude, I had no idea that I should have, put netting around my corn, especially it's so young. Like, you've seen how small the kernels were. It's a huge thing, big disappointment. But they actually didn't rip any of the plants out of the ground. So I think if I just stake up what they wrecked, maybe they'll be able to recover. I also have a good amount of seedlings that are ready to go in the ground. This is why you should always be sowing. Even if you're like pushing the limits of a certain plant because of your grow season, I really think just doing it for the sake of doing it, is actually very safe, because you never know when you have to like replace plants because of like bad weather or goddamn animals. But let's stop talking about the animals and let's talk about these sexy tomatoes. As you can see, they are actually producing fairly well. They're pretty short, which is something I'm noticing all around the garden. Like the 1 year I decide to grow everything vertical is the 1 year where everything's like very stumpy. It's not really a problem because these babies are, fruiting. They are putting on a good amount of tomatoes who are getting swollen. The spurts of rain that are happening with our weather is actually causing a bit of zippering around certain tomatoes that are in the bed. I'm going to go ahead and take those off, as you should, if you have any type of zippering with your tomato, because that essentially means it's on the verge of like bursting. And that happens because of irregular water. So now inside the bed, I have a great perspective on what needs to be pruned. At all times, there are going to be suckers popping up on your tomato plants, and I want these to continue to be single stem tomatoes. I'm really trying to ride with that method this year. So that, comes with a lot of pruning. It is another 90-degree day here. But we are at the potato patch, potato corner, potato bin gin. As you can see, I have actually lost a good amount of bags, maybe like 3 or 4. And when I say lost, I mean early harvested, because the stems actually browned out and withered away. As you can see in this bed, like right here, I am pretty sure this all has to do with watering. So as far as like what I've been doing with these bags is essentially just harvesting very small baby potatoes, basically, which have still been, pretty solid eating. But that's not what I'm looking for. So I have another bag of seeded potatoes that I'm going to go ahead and get into the soil very soon. But as far as right now, let's go ahead and take these grow bags, flip them over, and see what we got. As you can see, I got some, decent sized potatoes in here, but there are so many little ones that were supposed to grow on that, of course, couldn't grow on because there was no stem. Ooh, look at this. Nice. Some very small ones that'll do pretty well. All right, that's a decent size right there. Here are some purple potatoes, actually. Very sad that these didn't come up. Here we are at a bed that was supposed to be filled up with sweet potato vines. But I actually didn't know that groundhogs love sweet potato vines. Again, animals are not your friends. Do not think that yens are friends, especially if you have a garden in your backyard. So I immediately had to move the sweet potatoes to a bed that's actually protected. I'll show you that in just a moment. But it kind of just left this bed to be slightly empty. I have a good amount of onions in here. Nothing really eats onions. I have a pepper in here, my shishito, that is actually not doing too well. It kind of looks small and the fruits look underdeveloped, especially compared to like the other shishito, which was planted the same day. This big old squash plant is blocking too much sun for this to photosynthesize the way that it needs to. But yeah, for the most part, this bed was diverted, and I really have to make up for it during the wintertime now. I need redemption. I need redemption on this bed. But here on Pittsburgh Home Garden, I'm going to show you the good, bad, and the ugly. And this is certainly ugly, especially for the middle of July. You know what I'm saying? So let's go on and move on to some beauty. Here is the reformed melon patch, where I have all the grow bags filled with melons. I did a soft redesign because I actually caught a goddamn deer on my little security camera sniffing around. So I decided to put the fence around and kind of just combine all of the melon bags together So I have to be really careful. This is like the only spot in here where there aren't vines. But these things are vining pretty well. Again, the heat hasn't brought a lot of rain, so I don't think they're as grown as one would expect here in the middle of July. But I'm happy either way. Bada 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 bing. Oh, I'm a sweaty man. We are here at the second tomato bed. The one where I was going to put all of my suckers and some of the extras that just kind of ran over. Well, because this bed has not had any damage from any of the animals due to my excellent protection, you know what I'm saying, these babies have grown nice and tall. I was supposed to keep these to a double stem, which I actually don't think I have the heart to cut off some of these like very long loose suckers, because now this bed is going to have a very nice ground cover of the sweet potato leaves. As soon as I put the sweet potatoes in here, I started to notice that they were regrowing. So that's a good thing if you didn't know. If your sweet potatoes get damaged early on in the season, switch locations, put them somewhere safe, and, you know, just let them vine out, because they need all of these leaves to photosynthesize. That's like the word of the day. They need all those leaves to produce, you know, such large, essentially fruits. So putting them in here was probably one of my best decisions, after making a terrible decision of putting them in the other bed. The trusses on here are looking very strong. They're just now starting to put on very tiny little cute fruits that may be ready within the next couple of weeks. I could tell by the truss structure that these are a lot of cherry tomatoes, which once they start going, they kick off. Right next to the sunflower, the dwarf sunflower, I have a wonderful chili plant that is putting on all of its clusters. I actually really love growing chili peppers just because of the way that they do grow. On this one cluster, I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I have almost 10 peppers right here. And by the time September, October comes around, this thing should be about a foot taller and just full of these like pepper trusses, you know? So it's really cool to grow. If you are still looking to buy any peppers and don't necessarily want the super hot ones, I would suggest get the chili red. You know, they are a very versatile pepper, very good. The sweet potato is actually like growing back, starting to fill in the space over here. They're creeping along towards the squash, which I believe I forgot to mention for some reason. I have 2 different type of squash over there. All right, so here we are at my maybe second most fruitful bed. This was the early pea bed that is actually crushing it right now. I have not been harvesting the way I should, but to see the growth, just like stay on the plants for a bit, you know, it's actually very nice. I've come out here, I've had a couple drinks, and I've just walked around the garden and stared at all the growing peas. And they're actually like quite delicious. I am not the biggest eater of peas and beans, but I have been working them into my diet because, you know, what else am I going to do with this? I'm not going to give it all away, but I have some very overgrown pods. As you can see, this whole bed is basically overgrown at this point. Come to find out, all of the beans that I put in are actually bush beans. I probably should have paid attention to the packaging a bit more. So they actually didn't need this trellis, and, you know, it's a little bit too late to move them. So all of my new peas, I had kind of need to find a place for, which isn't a problem. I'll figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do a bit of a harvest right here. Take a lot of the peas and beans off of the stems. Oh, do you see this overgrown mess? I can like not see anything from the top view, which sucks because I know I have fruit under here. And the funny thing is, All these leaves are, of course, doing a great job at letting the plant grow, but they're also blocking all of the flowers that need to be pollinated. So if I have, 1, 2, 3 different flowers in this bed, why would the bees and different pollinators fight to get through all of these leaves when there's easy flowers, right in front of them? Because of all of the leaves, I have these monstrosities under here. Check this out. I mean, this is way overgrown. I have another one over here. Look at these. They kind of look fake at this point. But over here I have the little lemon ball squash that I was telling you about. Look how cute it is. And I wonder if it has more of a lemon taste. I actually really hope so. Also, I totally forgot, but I have some golden peas over here that are way overgrown, and the actual plant was suffering because it was receiving actually 0 sunshine. All right, so my number one concerned bed. This bed keeps me up at night. We had some very hard windstorms that brought very little rain, but almost had 50-mile-an-hour winds. So there's been a couple mornings where I've woken up, enjoyed a morning coffee, look out the window, and I see that my bug cover is completely off. Oh my goodness, I can't describe the mini heart attack that I have, because my immediate thought is something got inside and destroyed basically everything from the root, which has not happened. I will continue to stress about it, but it hasn't happened. So, as you can see, not too much has changed. These babies just keep growing and getting thicker at the base, and I am absolutely loving it. Again, this is my first time having very tall, luscious kale. This is how, you see it on the internet. And I actually adore it. Look how tall it is compared to my bald head. You know what I mean? Like, these are just beautiful leaves, and I've actually been able to harvest these essentially just when I need them. I can't be happier, besides 0 bugs, which you're just not gonna get here in the middle of the summer. My Brussels sprouts have been doing very well. I need to do some pruning on the lower stems because they're now touching the soil. No Brussels sprouts yet. They still seem to be forming on the stem, so I assume everything is going well. I have some overgrown beets to the left of the Brussels sprouts, and I'm gonna leave those in the ground until I figure out what I want to do with beets. Here on the right side of all the beauty, I have some lettuce that has gone to seed. This certainly isn't supposed to look like this, so I need to certainly do a bit of pruning in here, and put this cover back on. But for right now, I can't complain as far as like what's been going on here in the garden. But go ahead and subscribe if you dig the content, if you like my voice, if you think I'm sexy. Here's to you. If you like my knowledge, please put it to use. Please share it with your neighbors. Make sure you drink water. Make sure you hug your mom. You can tell I've been watching the Animal Bro. Shout out to him. But yeah, this is going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. And until next time, I'll be here gardening.
Oh, Pittsburgh soil, where melodies find roots. In my garden of jazz, wearing dandy boots. Nature's got the beat, and the blossoms hum. Every flower's a note in this lifelong drum.